Here's what she said to me.
Open up now.
You don't look so good, Mom.
Nothing a big old kiss from you won't fix.
Hi. Welcome to Jack Movie Recaps. Today I will recap the blockbuster hit movie this year titled Evil Dead Rise. If you like this movie, please like and subscribe and hit the notification bell for more upcoming recap videos. Warning: heavy spoilers ahead. So, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Mom?
Mommy's with the maggots now.
The movie begins at a lake house where a girl named Teresa is sitting by the water when her buddy Caleb's drone scares her. Caleb appears, mocking her, and she becomes enraged. She asks him if he shouldn't go check on his girlfriend Jessica, to which he responds that he gave her medicine and she is okay. Teresa then goes to check on Jessica and discovers that she is sleeping, so she sits by her side and begins reading Wuthering Heights. She hears Jessica repeating something and looks up to see her sitting on the bed. She becomes horrified as she realizes she is reciting a passage from the page she is reading, and her voice becomes manly and terrifying. Teresa orders her to stop talking, and as she approaches her, Jessica falls silent and falls off the bed. Teresa rushes to check on her and discovers her unconscious, but she suddenly awakens and begins experiencing seizures. Teresa comes over to check on her and offer assistance, but Jessica grabs her ponytail and scalps her. Teresa stumbles over to Caleb, who is surprised to see her, and it is only then that he notices the possessed Jessica. She takes the drone and smiles at him before plunging into the water and cutting her own face with it. Caleb dives into the sea to save her, but she drags him in to kill him and throws his severed head at Teresa before rising menacingly above the water. A woman named Beth is at a music venue with the band she works with, taking a pregnancy test in the bathroom. When she sees the outcome, she has a frightened expression on her face. Ellie, Beth's sister, is a tattoo artist who lives with her 3 children, wannabe DJ Danny, activist Bridget, and tiny Cassie, who is fascinated by the macabre. Bridget receives a visit on the door from a neighbor Jake and his younger brother Scott, who has a fancy on Bridget, but she declines Jake's request to watch the Nightmare on Elm Street flicks. Beth arrives at Ellie's apartment to speak with her, but the sisters are estranged and have a troubled relationship with their mother. Beth offers them gifts, and when she pulls out one for their father, they all become silent. Ellie sends the kids out for pizza and informs Beth that her husband abandoned them 2 months ago. Beth questions why she didn't tell her earlier. She claims she attempted to call her twice. Beth has realized her error and apologized to Ellie, but she is enraged. Later, while Beth is on her phone listening to Ellie's voicemails, she comes over to chat to her. She informs Ellie that she messed up again and wants her assistance to fix things. When the kids return from getting pizza, a powerful earthquake rocks the apartment building, terrifying them all. Danny finds an opening in the parking garage when it stops. He descends into the hole and discovers a subterranean area filled with vinyl discs and the enigmatic Naturum de Montu, or Book of the Dead. He brings the book back to the apartment and shows it to Bridget, thinking Mom might be able to sell it for some additional cash. But she claims that her mother will not accept cash for something he stole. He tries to open the book and cuts his hand, dripping blood on the page. Bridget notices the book opening and is surprised to see it, and as Danny opens the book, they see horrible drawings within, which scares Bridget and causes her to close the book. She says she doesn't like it and that he needs to return it right away. Danny, however, listens to one of the vinyls after she leaves the room, and the voice of a priest speaks about the nature of the Necronomicon while pronouncing an unholy incantation. He becomes afraid and attempts to stop it, but it does not stop, and the pages of the book begin to turn on their own. Meanwhile, Ellie is grabbing things while returning to the elevator, and we see an unknown force rushing toward their building. As she comes out of the elevator, she is abruptly attacked by an unseen creature, and the elevator begins to descend very quickly, causing her to faint. Her head is aching now as she regains consciousness after some time. She pleads for help and tries to escape, but only then does she realize she is being accompanied by an unseen creature that begins torturing her and then painfully bonds her with the elevator cables. The power goes out in their entire building, and Bridget informs Beth that it appears like only their building is affected. When Ellie returns to the apartment, possessed by the demons known as Deadites, Danny checks the fuse and Bridget lights the candles. She enters the kitchen, turns on the stove, and begins to throw eggs into a frying pan, some of which are filled with blood. They are all astonished to witness this, and Beth asks Ellie what she is doing. Ellie begins explaining calmly about ripping her kids open and climbing into them before crawling after them. She then turns towards them and screams, "It's not me," before collapsing and creepily crawling toward them. She then vomits all over the floor, terrifying the children, and the real Ellie manages to speak and begs Beth not to let the demons steal her children, before collapsing, apparently dead. Danny and Beth attempt to transport her to the hospital but discover that the elevator is broken. Beth enlists the assistance of Ellie's neighbors, Gabriel and Mr. Fonda, in putting Ellie to bed. Gabriel and Mr. Fonda then attempt to escape down a fire escape in order to seek assistance. Meanwhile, Beth expresses remorse about her relationship with her sister, and then Ellie and Beth's phone suddenly announces she is burning, and her phone breaks. When she turns around, she finds a fly in her eye, and she blinks and comes back to life. When the kids arrive, they discover that their mother is still alive, and Beth informs them that she is on fire. Beth and Danny attempt to place her in a bathtub filled with cold water, which causes her eyes to roll and she jumps back up against the wall. When they see this, they are all horrified, and Bridget pulls Cassie away from there. Ellie then crawls up the wall and lets out a thunderous screech, which Gabriel and Fonda outside hear, and the bathroom mirrors are destroyed as a result. She then falls silent and back into the bathtub. But the next thing we know is, she's out of the bathtub, and when Danny says "Mom," she says, "Mommy's with the maggots now." Ellie then emerges from the toilet with a glass piece and attempts to attack Beth, but when Beth tries to defend herself, the glass stabs her in the hand. Bridget then tells Ellie to stop pulling it out. Ellie immediately turns and attacks her, taking a tattoo pen to her face and cutting her cheek, and as she tries to lick her wound, Danny knocks her down with a chair, sending her into a dark chamber. Only then does Gabriel appear, and as Ellie leaps on him to attack him, they flee the apartment. She then chews Gabriel's eye out, causing him to toss her down, and she coughs her eye out, which enters Jake's mouth. Beth, seeing an opportunity, locks her out, and Ellie begins bashing her head against the door. After a while, everything settles down, and Beth notices from the peephole that Ellie is chasing Jake and mercilessly killing him. Suddenly, Gabriel stands up and begs for help, but Ellie arrives and slits his throat as well. Mr. Fonda then shoots Ellie with his gun, but she fights him, disarming and disemboweling him. She then comes over and looks through the peephole. Bridget now asks Danny if he thinks her mother looks like the photographs in the book. Danny claims it's not his fault, and they start fighting. Beth intervenes to calm them down, and Danny expresses his want to show her something. He shows her the book, and she inquires as to its contents. Meanwhile, Cassie asks Bridget if she is hurting badly, but she leaves stating she is fine. Cassie hears her mother singing a song after she has left and follows the voice. He shows Beth the vinyl and informs her that it features a disturbing excerpt from the book read by a priest over a dark prayer. Bridget notices that her wound is turning dark and is horrified when she hears a disturbance. The book's pages begin to spin on their own, and then some dark substance starts coming out from Bridget's face. She tries to rinse it, but she vomits insects. Ellie, on the other hand, tries to persuade Cassie to open the door, and as soon as she does, Ellie grabs her by the throat. However, Beth and Danny come to her aid, and Beth manages to relock the door. They suddenly hear a disturbance coming from the kitchen, and when Beth goes to investigate, she discovers Bridget hunched on the kitchen counter. When she approaches her, her foot strikes a pot, and she becomes scared when she notices Bridget munching on a wine glass. She then laughs at her and spits on her face, causing her to stumble. Bridget then crawls closer to her, but she kicks her away. Bridget, on the other hand, cuts her leg with a cheese grater. Beth knocks her down with a stew pot, and Danny arrives. Bridget then pursues her siblings until she charges at Cassie, who is clutching the pointed end of one of her improvised dolls, and impales Bridget through the mouth, seemingly killing her. Danny then ties her up and places her in bed for protection. Beth then repairs Danny's equipment so she can listen to the vinyl and hears the priest discussing how he had to kill his possessed colleagues. He tried to kill them by burning them, burying them in concrete, fully dismembering them, still they wouldn't die. So only solution is to run. Ellie then attempts to get to the apartment by going through the vents after killing a cat crawling in there, while Bridget gets up and leaves the room. Danny notices her as she tries to assault Cassie, so he pushes Cassie and stabs Bridget to defend her. Bridget then assaults him and pulls out a knife, stabs his hand, and pukes blood over his face. She then pulls out the knife and tells him that he should not have taken the book away. Then he manages to light Bridget on fire with a spray. While Beth is listening to the vinyl, Ellie crawls into the room through the vent, and Beth sees her reflection in the glass standing behind her. She becomes afraid, which switches off the record player, so Ellie plays it with her finger, and the voice begins to come out of her mouth. But it has no effect on her. Ellie then throws her in the air. Beth discovers an injured Danny and Cassie hiding under a table, and Danny apologizes to Cassie before he passes away. Ellie then arrives and attacks Beth, but she detects that Beth is pregnant and was about to kill the baby. Just then Cassie slides a pair of scissors toward Beth and stabs it in Ellie's nose. Beth then calms Cassie from the situation and tells her she will get Cassie and herself out of there safely. Ellie is still alive. She pulls scissors from her nose. Beth and Cassie try to flee the building, but the lift is broken, the ladder is damaged, and the emergency escape is closed. She steals Mr. Fonda's shotgun, which is when Ellie arrives. Beth shoots Ellie, causing her hands and legs to be severed. But, by this time, the other dead people are also possessed, and they join inside Ellie by tearing her stomach open, so that everyone becomes one entity. All of these possessed people were screaming dead by dawn and no way out, and Beth enters the lift with Cassie, which automatically turns on, but blood begins to fill the lift, and we see blood flowing out of the lift as Beth and Cassie are thrown out. Beth and Cassie try to flee, but the car does not move. Then we see Ellie, whose body has been fused with others, giving her the appearance of a spider demon. Beth opens and closes the parking door, and they slip over it before the door closes, but this monster pulls Cassie back before the door closes. Beth must return in this case to save Cassie, and before the demon can kill Cassie, Beth attacks the evil Allie with a shotgun. The demon and Beth then struggle, with both attempting to put the other in a large shredder. Cassie assists here, and in the end, Beth uses a chainsaw to cut the demonic Ellie and toss her into the shredder. Shredding her entire body, Beth feeds Ellie's head into the shredder because it is the only item that is still talking nonsense. Beth and Cassie then leave. The following day, we see Jessica. Yes, the same Jessica we saw at the beginning of the film. Jessica used to live on another floor in this building, and she comes to the parking lot so that she can go on vacation with Teresa in her car. Until now, she had been on video call with Teresa and was about to go to pick her up when she notices blood in the parking lot and she becomes terrified. We can see that even though Ellie was dead, that demonic entity is still free, implying that she was not in prison, and it now controls Jessica. This scene connects to the start of movie. Movie ends here. Please like, share, subscribe for more videos.